And it's 10 a.m. right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you're watching from. Thank God it's Friday. That's the edition for today. Let's get the top stories that set your agenda for today. Now, we'll see the Economist Intelligence Unit says the Naira could depreciate further by double digits next year due to the impact of rising inflation and exchange rates disparity in Nigeria. The UK-based Research and Analysis Division of Financial Advisory Services company, Economist Group, made this known in its Africa Outlook 2024. That report was released yesterday. According to the EIU, high inflation and continued spread between the official and parallel markets will leave the exchange rate regime unstable and result in periodic devaluations. The firm also expects double-digit currency depreciation to affect other major African economies like Egypt, Angola, Ethiopia, and Sudan. And the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edu, says Nigeria needs to generate adequate revenues instead of borrowing in order to fund the 2024 budget. He made this statement when he appeared before the Joint Senate Committee scrutinizing the 2024-2026 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy paper led by Senator Sani Musa. The minister explained that the best way the country could fund its annual budgets was to spend more money on infrastructure that could generate the revenues needed. He added that accessing foreign loans would be very expensive for Nigeria, as the federal government is still grappling with high budget deficits at this time. Let's get a check on the grains market. Now, we see Chicago wheat fell today and is headed for the biggest weekly fall since September after lower than expected U.S. export sales underlined weak demand and competition from cheap Russian grain. Soybeans and corn also dipped, but both were set for weekly gains despite a sharp decline for soybeans on Thursday after forecasts for rain and top exporter Brazil eased concerns. The most active wheat contract on the Chicago Board of Trade, CBOT WV1, was down about 0.1% at $5.56 a bushel, down about 3.9% for the week. CBOT soybeans SV1 fell about 0.3% to $13.56 for half a bushel, but we're still 0.6% higher this week. Corn CV1 slipped 0.4% to $4.73 a bushel, but as 1.9% up from last Friday's close. And to some company news now, a new digital financial payment application, Zoa Pay, has officially been unveiled for the retail market. The all-in-one fintech platform aims to revolutionize traditional banking by deploying cutting-edge technology to optimize payment transaction processes. Take a listen.
It is the official launch of Zoa Pay, a digital financial application that simplifies payment by making access to cash easy for the retail market. The all-in-one fintech platform aims to redefine the digital payment experience, emphasizing accessibility, security, and convenience. The founder and CEO of Zoa Pay sheds light on the transformative potential of the app.
I dreamt of a platform that would do for Nigeria what Revolut, Wise, and other products did for the UK, Europe, and the US by transforming and disrupting the markets. A platform that was not just a payment service, but a beacon of financial inclusion. During these formative years, I will tell you this: the seed of Zoa Pay were inspired and sown.
The chairman of the event highlights the impact Zoa Pay aims to have on the digital financial landscape.
This app is designed to bring financial inclusion to the forefront of our mission. Zoa Pay is more than just a fintech product. It's an embodiment of innovation, security, and user centricity. This application is poised to transform the way we interact with financial services, making them more accessible, efficient, and secure for every user.
Next, attendees get a first-hand look at the features and functionalities of Zoa Pay. User experience is a critical aspect of any digital payment app. How has Zoa Pay prioritized user-friendly interfaces and security measures to ensure a smooth and trustworthy experience for its users?
Most merchants and businesses require instant payment for their solutions, and they also need a place where they can aggregate all their payments, look at it, verify, and reconcile at the end of the day. What we have done in Zoa Pay is that we've been able to create a platform where customers, agents, merchants can receive payments and also meet their day-to-day needs.
Wow, MVP's joining MVP's hold it. Go on, MVP's joining to drag that thing.
Though the launch may be over, the real journey begins for Zoa Pay users as they can now actively explore the app and experience its features firsthand.
And according to the National Bureau of Statistics, the total value of capital imported into Nigeria in the second quarter of the year fell to $1.03 billion from $1.13 billion in the preceding quarter, representing a 9% decline compared to the previous quarter. Let's get a sense of how to change this trend. Join us now for this conversation is Mr. Sonny Ofehe, Executive Assistant on External Relations and Diaspora Affairs to the Delta State Governor, joining me right here in the studio. Good morning. Great to have you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, yeah, we keep talking about attracting FDI into the country. We've seen the trend. There's been a downward trend for the past 5 years, at this time. And we did see the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Mr. Wale Edu. He acknowledged the lack of attractiveness, for FDI, into the country. So I'm wondering at this time, is the government thinking, outside the box now? How do we, maybe a situation where we grow GDP without FDI?
No, you can never grow GDP without FDI. I mean, if you want to grow your economy, you must, as a government, create a policy that can attract foreign direct investment into your country. And Nigeria has that capacity to do that, because if you talk of natural resources, if you talk of human capital development, we should be one of the best in the world. In terms of natural resources, we're one of the largest in the world. And also, in terms of labor, there is cheap labor. That could be another way you can attract investors to come in. But before you do that, you must look at your security issues. You must look at how you can guarantee those investments. And you can look at how you can secure those investments, most importantly, and ensure that those investments are repatriated back to the countries where the FDI is coming in from. Now, look at the airline, for instance. Today, IATA have said that there is a total of $2.2 billion of unremitted airlines funds to their various countries, and Nigeria is the highest. Of that amount, about $812 million are still unremitted by the central bank to all of the airlines. And this is a discouraging trend for whoever will want to come in here to do investments. And you must not also forget that we have security concerns, like what we see in the northeastern part of Nigeria, what we see in even the urban states, And so the condition today, it's not, Nigeria is not an attractive place. Now, I appreciate the fact that the president is going around, trying to woo investors.
He's been marketing Nigeria.
Yes, but while you market Nigeria, you must also show evidence that you're really in for business. And you must start by first dealing with the issue of these airlines. Now what has happened to Nigerians now when you travel? Nigerians tend to pay much more, 4 or 5 times more than, if you want to pay in Naira, more than when you have to pay in dollars. So if the system identifies your IP address as coming from Nigeria, it shuts your access into getting seats in this airline. This is another strategy the airlines are using to ensure that they don't get people to buy their tickets with Naira. And who is suffering? It's the people that are suffering from it. So you look at, for instance, if you look at countries like Botswana, when they gained independence, they were one of the poorest countries in the world. But thanks to FDI, they've been able to jump. And today, they are Africa's fastest growing economy, with a population size. And how did they get that? They got that from just one company, So there are areas with which we can bring in our FDI.
Right. But looking at where we are right now, we're seeing a downward trend right now with attracting FDI into the country. And if we're trying to be realistic, at this time, what kind of conversations are being had, right now to say, okay, this is where we are. What other options are there for us right now? Since we're not getting the amount of FDI we want, what can we do domestically?
Then you must look into some sectors, like for instance, agriculture. We must grow our economy, particularly in the agrarian sector, from depending, for growing our economy to feed ourselves. Rather, we should look at how we can improve our agriculture to become an exporting country. That can also help you mitigate the effect of FDI, And then you must also look at our solid minerals. I hear in the news lately now that the government is beginning to put attention in that area. That's another area we should really put our investment in. Like, for instance, lithium. The world is gradually shifting from normal fuel cars to electric vehicles. And so we can use our potential in lithium to attract, not just become an exporting lithium country, but also ensuring that companies like Tesla can come in here and produce the batteries here. So we can use our potential in solid mineral, to be able to attract these companies to come in here and do business, But first and foremost, you must deal with the issue of your security. You must assure the investors that, the place is safe to do business. And then you must also, most importantly, assure them that you have settled the challenge of funds repatriation when they come in here to do business.
I'm talking about doing business here too. It's really expensive, doing business at this point in Nigeria, having to, always budget for diesel, see how much, diesel has gone up. And we want to move from consumption to production
economy. Yeah.
What kind of synergy are we seeing in the various arms of government too? Because if we don't have constant power, we cannot produce. What kind of conversations are being had to create a synergy? So it's like a domino effect where we can actually get to where we are, where we want to be.
Yeah, you see, because we have challenges in all of these areas that you've mentioned, those are the areas that we're supposed to attract the foreign direct investments. There are so much funds available for alternative energy, for sourcing for alternative energy. We can attract companies to come in and look into that sector. But we must look at our fiscal policy. It's not just to bring in the companies here to do business. You must ensure that your fiscal policy is in line with international standards. And when you do that, you create this, confidence in the investors, because nobody is prepared to bring his investments to a volatile country, a country that is not safe, a country like, I'll give you for instance, when I come into this country, I fly Air France, and what they've done now is they consider Abuja to be an unsafe place, so their crew stops at N'Djamena. They change crew at N'Djamena. That's loss of revenue. I mean, Emirates Airline they stop flying at one time, and most of these airlines are threatening to stop because, like I said before, as we speak right now, it's more than 800 million of their money are still stuck in this country and not repatriated. And that is not a good sign. So you must look into several factors. And also, when you bring in FDI, you don't have steady electricity. You have to deal with the issue of looking for diesel to power your business. And then you have to look at also the infrastructure. The infrastructures are not there, so if your FDI is connected to haulage, transportation, the roads, and we saw the terrible state of the south, the southeast, I don't know, the road leading from Benin to Port Harcourt. Yeah. We saw the state of that road on many social media videos that were shot. And so you have to correct all of this for you to be able to attract investors into the country. I came into this country a few days ago, and I came in with some investors. And the reason why I did that was for them to come and see, the country and meet the people. We have a diverse people who have the capacity to be able to support any FDI drive that comes into this country. But the government must do a lot in terms of not just going around and weighing investors, but ensuring that your financial condition is ripe, and most importantly, your judiciary.
So that means, in your opinion, before going out, let us sort out the issues, on ground before going out, so that when we go out, they actually see what they're coming for. So definitely, we shouldn't be looking just to the federal government at this time. The subnationals also have a role to play, in attracting, FDI
even the local government,
their states, even the local governments up to that level. Talk to me about that. How are subnationals thinking about this whole FDI attraction?
Well, I think certain states have risen up to realizing that without FDI, they also cannot grow. I mean, NBS report in 2021 states that 24 countries out of 36 did not attract a single foreign direct investment. My state, Delta, attracted foreign direct investments, but it was a paltry sum of $1.1 million. That's small. So what the new administration is doing now is to ensure that we look into the potential of the states, we look into our solid mineral potential as well, we look into the oil and gas industry that has been with us since 1958. So we're beginning to rethink and rejig our approach to how we can expand our foreign direct investment inflow. And so we're also beginning to look at the potential of our diaspora community. And that is why, like you introduced me, I'm the executive assistant to my governor on external relations and diaspora affairs.
Right. I'm going to hear, about what you are doing, with that. But we got some breaking news coming to us right now. I see the former CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, has been arraigned at the Federal Capital Territory High Court on a 6-count charge bordering on alleged procurement fraud. The original charge on the former CBN Governor was 20 to the tune of 6.5 billion naira, and has been reduced to 6 now to the tune of 1.6 billion naira. In the second count, Mr. Emefiele was accused of using his position to corruptly confer an advantage to Yaro, a staff of the Central Bank of Nigeria, by awarding a contract for the supply of one Toyota Avalon at the cost of 99.9 million naira, owing to April 16 Investment Limited, a company in which the said Sadatu Ramali and Yaro, director, and was thereby committed the offense. They was also accused of conferring corrupt advantage contrary to Section 19 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000 by awarding a contract for the supply of one Toyota Land Cruiser V8 April 1616 Investment Limited in 2019 at the cost of 73 million naira. The fourth count was about a Toyota Land Cruiser V8 valued at 73.8 million awarded legally to April 1616 Investment Limited. The FD further accused the former CBN governor of also awarding a contract to Yaro for the supply of two Toyota Hilux Shell specification vehicles at a cost of 44.2 million in 2020. That's a big one there. Mr. Emefiele pleaded not guilty to the 6-count charge, and Justice Hamza Muazu of the Federal Capital Territory High Court is adjourned November 2022 to rule on the bail application and 28th for commencement of trial. In the interim, he ordered that Mr. Emefiele be remanded at the Kuje Correctional Center. That's the breaking news reaching us right now. So Sorry for interrupting you
No,
there.
it's okay. No problem.
So just to, understand, because you've lived abroad, many years, and definitely, I'm sure you've learned a lot, out there. Talk to me about what we can expect from the Delta State government, from your expertise.
Well, we're doing tremendously very well. From the very day my portfolio was announced, a lot of Nigerians in the diaspora, not just Deltans alone, they've been reaching me via social media, direct phone calls, sending emails in. I must tell you that I am indeed very, very proud of our Nigerians, not even those in diaspora alone, but those who are also living here. Many of them have, gone very far in trying to do their bit to attract investment into this country. But unfortunately, majority of the government are not giving them the opportunity, to roll in this potential that they have, And we cannot rule out the diaspora community because in 2022 alone, the diaspora remittance to this country was $22 billion. That was the second highest after crude oil. And with that $22 billion is even majority of the ways with which we even remit funds now, because of the ease with which you can communicate with your banks, is by, I give you euros, you tell me the equivalent, and then if you have an account in Nigeria, you do a credit into my account. So what that means is that if we can have a means to measure such transaction and combine them as diaspora remittance, we'll be able to, double this figure that I've just mentioned.
Because right now the naira is truly weakened.
Weakened,
yes, and we've seen a lot of distortions.
Yes, and
in that market. So we need more. We need to attract more dollars.
Yes, and you can do that through your diaspora community. You can, but most of our diaspora.
How do we make them comfortable enough? And also, we keep talking about FDI, but what about the domestic investors? We're not looking at them at this point.
No, you see, you need an inflow of hard currency. You cannot rely. We have an internally generated revenue system already, and that system is not helping us. So we need to look outside of the box, like you said in the opening. We need to look outside of the box. And then in looking outside of the box, we need to tap into every potential that we have. Now, what we've done for Delta, for instance, our targets through my office is reaching out to investments that will also carry their own credits. Therefore, it does not put a financial burden on the states. So what is expected from the state is an enabling environment, possibly like a space. There's what they call the carbon capture these days. Most governments are not taking advantage of that. That's free money. Where we have a lot of mangroves. So that is what we want to do in Delta State. We want to give away our mangroves, not give away, but we want to sign them up for a period of time.
And say
we want to preserve them,
right,
so that we can, generate revenue through companies that are polluting, like the mining companies, the airline companies who are donating massively into carbon capture funds. So we're looking at that. And then you have sovereign wealth funds of countries like Norway, Sweden, and in the Middle East. They're looking for areas not only to invest, but area to do some kind of corporate social responsibility as a way of. So today in Delta State, we've been able to attract, a cancer screening hospital that will be funded by the Swedish Investment Corporation. And then we're also looking at modular oil refineries, that will get funding from Norway, and this, if we begin to look in this direction, we will not leave the burden alone for the government to deal with big multinationals,
right,
because there are also medium-scale business, small-scale business that can also power and boost our economy back home through those remittances. And of course, if you create a synergy between the diaspora community and the government, you will definitely see an upsurge in FDI inflow into the country.
Right, definitely. A lot of work to be done there, and definitely subnationals have to play a huge part in that. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Mrs. Sonny Ofehe, Executive Assistant, External Relations and Diaspora Affairs.
Thank you.
With the Delta State Government.
Thank
you.
Great
having you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll be looking at Edtech. That's education technology. That's in a moment. Do stay with us. And now let's revisit the inflation data we got for October. We saw the food inflation data stood at 31.52% from 30.64% year on year. Let's get a sense of the way forward now with Bountiful Taco CEO Alana Green Limited joining us from our Abuja studio. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Laddie, it's a pleasure to be on your show again.
Great to have you. So we see headline inflation definitely driven mostly by food prices. Is there any hope of food prices coming down? And what are the short-term moves that we can use at this point to rein in food inflation?
Okay, so the numbers are worrying. Headline inflation is at 27%. Food inflation is at 31%. It's disturbing to see that, and it is a significant increase from last month's inflation numbers. And we know that food plays a major role, in driving headline inflation. So I've thought about a few solutions that could help with our inflation numbers. And I think, first of all, what we need to work with is finding solutions around the supply end of our food production. So when we move our food from the rural communities down to the urban towns, that is where we find the highest increase in the inflation, because we see that the players or the actors in the value chain find a way to transfer the cost to consumers. Now, I feel that government needs to put in regulation, to monitor the consumer price index. Informs us that government needs to do better in monitoring this cost. So, for example, at the time there's scarcity of fuel, I think probably across the country, but I'm searching about Abuja, and you find that vendors or what I call it, distributors of fuel, that's fuel stations, are selling way above the normal prices. I bought fuel, for example, at 660 naira per liter just a few days ago, and it was horrifying to know. So the reason is this: in Nigeria, because of the weakened regulations, you find that if there's a 10% increase in whatever part of the supply chain, the business, increases that number by over 100%. So we need to, first of all, implement regulatory policies to monitor price control. What we also need to do as a people, government needs to cut down excessive spending. The reason is because we need to look at generating revenue to invest in other important sectors. For example, agriculture, also circular economy. So there's no waste and there's no spoilage. That way we can generate more revenue. I also think that government should do something around tax reforms, and I'm positive that this administration is taking the needed efforts to look at the tax issue. So we need to curb our spendings, and that can increase more revenue as a country.
And talking about what the government should do or is doing, amidst the rising food prices, President Bola Tinubu declared an immediate state of emergency on food insecurity in the country. Some of the specific steps that were to be taken by the government was implementation of state of emergency that included immediate release of fertilizers and grains to farmers and households, and protecting farms and farmers so that the farmers can actually return to their farmlands without fear of attacks. Did you see any of this happen?
Okay, so we haven't seen any of the fertilizers coming in at the time, but I hear that there's some work around it, and I have some contemporaries who say government is taking action anytime soon. I'm not sure about that, but I also want to say that the government is trying its best to curb food insecurity. You find that, I think, for the first time, a government has placed the food security issue very seriously under the Office of the National Security Advisor. So we're seeing that banditry has become reduced. We're also seeing that the killings and terrorism as they used to be are not as terrible at the time. So I think that the current administration is pretty much serious. As a matter of fact, a few months ago, I didn't hold this position, but I'm seeing their efforts, and I think they are doing all that it takes to make food security work for the country, to ensure food security. So the vice president was also in America, and through the help of flour mills, he got a meeting with John Deere, and they are meeting to set up an assembling plant in Nigeria. Do you know what that would do for us? It will significantly increase our food production. It will give farmers access to mechanized services, so that way they can upscale their production. They can move from subsistence to sustainable farming. So I think that the government is taking the right steps in agriculture. I just think that we need to narrow down on milestones and implementations.
So, in your opinion, would you say the farmers are returning to the farms at this time?
Yeah, so when the government came in, the farmers already gone to the farm. We're halfway through in the season. So we're at, we've just harvested, and also everybody's gearing up. But I see some excitement around smallholder farmers. Now, what government needs to do is to look at the input side of things. They need, like I said before, to enact serious price control measures on things like fertilizers, seedlings, crop protection products, because these are the things that push, the prices of agro produce, when they come out on the market. So government needs to look at targeted subsidies, for production, for food production. Yeah, Ladi. So
right. Okay.
It'll get better.
So looking at the former leadership of the CBN and the interventions in the agri sector, let's look at from your opinion, looking at the body language of the new leadership, do you still see more interventions, coming from the CBN in the agri sector?
Yeah, so first of all, the CBN has no choice. The largest contributor to our GDP, as we know, is the agricultural sector, and we haven't even achieved the potential. So the CBN has no choice than to contribute, to interventions in the agri space. More so, I think the CBN under the leadership of Yemi Cardoso is looking to stabilize, our foreign exchange challenge and address very pressing issues. Then they will open up for interventions. So I think they'll be gearing up for the wet season farming. I also know that they have made some pronouncements around 50% contribution to wheat production in the country. That I see them coming in to play an active role in our food, production. Now, I think the approach should be for private sector organizations to form an alliance, to come together to look at models, intervention models that will work for, our environment, set them up, and bring their own equity contribution for the CBN to partner with them, as well, to drive this thing. Because I feel that leaving it in the hands of government might not be as effective, and I feel that, the private sector as well needs a lot of support from government. We see the numbers of the interest rate numbers and all of that. So it's really an unfriendly place for, the private sector organizations, and they are the ones to lead these interventions. Take, for example, at Alana Green, we sometime last season, we saw capital market finance at over 6% per month. And he almost ran the business down. And this is an organization that is focused on helping smallholder farmers apply precision agriculture. Precision agriculture is something that can transform our food system significantly. So if an organization like Alana Green can have these challenges, you can find out other startups who are just growing the challenges that they are facing. So the intervention will come through the CBN. I'm positive, but he's going to have a private sector approach, and the private sector has a major role to play, in delivering these interventions. Yeah.
Right. We're definitely hoping that food inflation starts trending downward at some point, hopefully into 2024. Thank you so much for coming. Mr. Bountiful Atako, CEO, Alana Green Limited. It was great having you. Thank you.
Thank you, Laddie. It was a pleasure to be on your show. See you next time. Cheers.
Thank you. All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll look at Edtech in Nigeria. That's in a moment. Do stay with us. All right, let's quickly get a check on the local markets here, the equities market and the fixed income market. We see we got a marginal pump yesterday. That's for the NGX. Did close about 1,025 points yesterday. Marginal gain was what we saw right there for the local bourse. Talking about the NGX, you can see the equities market there, 0.02% up marginal, but we still see that it still managed to end in bullish territory. Let's look at the next slide now. We're seeing the market sector performance. Banking was in red. 0.35%, industrial goods down, oil and gas, just insurance and consumer goods were in the green to close yesterday. Let's take it to the fixed income market now. Looking at the activity, we see volume, value in the red. Volume, though, had the green compared to the previous trading session, and deals was much higher at 6%. Let's take a look at what happened with the top trades now. We see the top trades. We see it's more of insurance and the oil and gas and insurance stocks that led the top trades yesterday. For the fixed income market now, let's talk to Chuka Nwachukwu, Head Asset Liability Management at UBA. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning, Laddie. How are you?
I'm great. Fine, thank you. So before we get started, now, how do you see the inflation numbers for October 2023, 27.33%? What impact will it have on the fixed income market?
That's about 61 basis point movement from the last previous inflation figure. It will have an adverse implication on the security. Because currently the security is trading around the longer end of the bond, for example, is trading around 18%, and then you have inflation around 27.72. Obviously, it's not looking good for investors and as well as the economy.
How do you see Monday's bond auction?
Yeah, on the bond auction on Monday, we had a total of 360 billion was on offer across the four maturities of 2029, 2033, 2038, and 2053. We saw about 110 basis point movement across board, from 110 basis point to 140 basis point. For example, on the 2029, which is the shorter end, we saw a movement of about 110 from 14.9 to 16%. On the longer end, we saw another 140 basis point movement from 16.6 to 18%. And this bond is currently trading above where it's actually closed. That's an indication that the traders feel that yield will continue to go up.
Thank you so much, Chuka Nwachukwu, for coming on and give us the details from the fixed income market. Have a great day.
Thank you. And you too.
All right, now let's look at the Edtech industry now. We see it's a combination of education and technology. And we see stakeholders in the education sector have restated the need to invest in information and communication to deepen the growth and adoption of Edtech solutions for learning in Nigeria. So we're going to be heading back to our Abuja studio now to get a sense of how some companies right here are pushing the Edtech agenda right here in the country. Joining me for this conversation, we have Nicholas Albueze, Senior Vice President in charge of Africa. And we have Adedeji Michael Ladipo, Country Director, Head of Business PGM, Anthology's channel partner for Nigeria. We also have Joseph Odo, Director of ICT at TED Fund all joining us from Abuja studio. Great to have all three of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. So I'll start with you, Mr. Nicholas. So the term Edtech is becoming quite popular these days. Looking at education in Africa, Nigeria, take for instance Nigeria, the strike culture negatively impacts schools. How does Edtech address, these kind of issues?
That Edtech is a fantastic way to address those kind of challenges. And the reason why I do believe that is because Edtech help to address many learners at the same time in a remote yet very convenient way, bringing quality education at scale, which is something quite unprecedented. And through the program we're currently running, thanks to the TED Fund organization, thanks, of course, to the executive secretary from TED Fund, and thanks to the support we're receiving from the Minister of Education, we believe that that's actually the best way for us to support the education and the growth of education within the country at scale.
Let me come to Mr. Adedeji now. Looking at Nigeria's education gap right now, and I'm sure you have knowledge of how it really works here in Nigeria. Talk to me about how the solution anthology is bringing can actually help in closing that education gap right here.
So first of all, we're taking it from the avenue whereby it's making it easier for the lecturers to teach, and it's making it more efficient for the students to learn. Because once you create an enabling environment whereby teaching and learning are easier, then you have greater collaboration and greater results. And that's what technology brings to the forefront of education. And the project we're running with TED Fund will be changing the face of education in Nigeria. So we are thankful to TED Fund and the support given by the Honorable Minister, and in particular, the focus this government has in changing education in Nigeria.
And let me talk to Mr. Joseph Odo, the Director of ICT at TED Fund. We saw that TED Fund selected, the learning management system, of anthology. It's called a Blackboard Learn. Tell us why you chose this system.
If we look at the ICT Trust for the Ministry of Education, we see that one of its needs is to provide a common ICT infrastructure platform for education at all levels. And also, when you look at the TED Fund mandate to provision for improving education in tertiary education institutions all across the country, especially public education institutions, it makes it mandatory for us to be able to invest in solving common problems across tertiary institutions in the country. And using ICT platforms makes it easier for us to reach a wider scale of students and of lecturers. So ICT enables you to increase access to education. It enables you to also increase the availability of learning resources. And we established TERAS, Tertiary Education Research Applications and Services, to be able to address problems that are common to all our tertiary institutions. Blackboard is one of our flagship programs because with Blackboard, the students and the lecturers, we enjoy a community of more than 4,000 tertiary institutions globally. Equally, with the learning management system that Blackboard presents to us, it is going to improve access to education, improve access to a lot of educational resources globally. And through the TERAS platform, we'll have increased access. We will enable institutions to meet their individual mandates, meet their accreditation needs, improve on their ranking, standardize the platforms that they are using for access, and generally make sure that the mandate of the fund is achieved and also the educational milestones that the government wants to achieve are also achieved.
Mr. Joseph, do you see any risk to this Blackboard Learn platform at this time? You know, looking at internet penetration in the country, does it impact it, you know, negatively? Looking at where we are right now with internet penetration.
There are many of the common challenges that the fund is addressing presently. Equally, access to internet will increase because of the policy thrust that the fund is moving. Thanks to the Executive Secretary, he is making use of ICT as an enabler to achieve the fund's mandate in tertiary institutions. And one of these is to make sure that we provide mobile and fixed internet access. We have already started working on the mobile provisioning of internet access, and hopefully next year we'll also be working on provisioning fixed internet access to institutions. Yes, internet access availability is a challenge, power is a challenge, access to platforms for education resources is also a challenge, and that's why we have introduced the Terras platform. Key also within this Terras platform is the beneficiary identity management platform that will enable us have students and lecturers come into Terras and make use of free internet that will be available to whitelisted sites. These whitelisted sites will include Blackboard as we move on the project. We include electronic journals subscriptions, which we started now with IPSCO, and many other educational resources that will come into the platform. So access to internet will increasingly be improved, and this will make sure that learning resources become available to the students and also to the teaching and non-teaching staff.
All right, let me quickly go to Mr. Nicholas Albuzi now. Let's talk affordability. We know right now a lot of households are squeezed. We see incomes are squeezed. There's a cost of living crisis right now in Nigeria and most parts of Africa. Talk to me about affordability. How affordable is this platform, and how will it help, you know, Nigerians that can't really afford, you know, other forms of education at this time?
Sure. So to answer that question, I think you need to understand that from an anthology standpoint of view, we really leverage what we call the corporate social leadership program, which means that we consider that education should be a right, and it should be a right for everyone. Therefore, when we approach that specific project, we decided to take an angle where profitability wasn't something important to us. The most important was to make sure that the project was a success and that we could meet the requirement of going through volumes. Nigeria is a giant. It's a giant for Africa. It's a giant for the world. And we really want to make and increase the quality of education in Nigeria. We are lucky enough to have great experience. For example, we have a nationwide project happening in Saudi Arabia where we've been partnering with the government for 10 years. And we saw how that increased drastically, how they raised up into the ranking. And I think we can bring that to Nigeria in a way shorter amount of time, and that will bring outstanding results. So that would be my answer. Is we're in that together. We want to make sure we're making a difference, and therefore everything that is related to the cost is something that we make extremely affordable to address the volumes that we're talking about and make education better.
Fantastic. I'll definitely be looking out for affordability, you know, going forward at this time with the solution anthology is bringing. I want to thank all three of you for coming on the show. Nicholas Albuzi, Senior Vice President in charge of Africa Anthology, and Adedeji Michael Ladipo, Country Director and Head of Business PGM Anthology's channel partner for Nigeria, and Mr. Joseph Odo, Director of ICT at TETFund. It was great having all three of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now let's head on to other markets now. Let's not leave out the crypto market. We see some pullback in that market right now. We see Bitcoin still holding above that bullish level, about $37,000, but we're seeing a pullback this morning. I will see 2.77%. Big drops this morning. Ethereum also losing that 2,000 psychological point. Talking about Ethereum, we see BNB also holding on. Let's bring in Olumide Additional, financial market analyst. Olumide, good morning.
Good morning, Ladi. It's Black Friday in the crypto market.
Yeah, Black Friday, and that's actually coming next week, but I guess it's coming early. Talk to me about price action this week.
Yeah, well, what we're seeing is that the delay by the Security Exchange Commission of the United States in approving the Bitcoin spot ETF, which has been much anticipated, had brought Bitcoin to its monthly lows. So it had to stay on a support around the 35,500 to the 800 mark. Pretty much liquidity is being zapped out because bookmakers are envisaging that we might not see an approval till early January. So I think profit taking has been in play, and that's pretty much why you see Bitcoin melting this week, Ladi.
Yeah, definitely melting. I'll be looking out for what happens next week. Thank you so much, Olumide Additional. Run out of time right now. Catch you again next week. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, so that's a wrap on the program today. We're seeing a pullback in the crypto market, but the NGX, continues in bullish territory. Join me again on Business Incorporated for more updates and developments in the world of business. You can watch us again on our YouTube channel. You can also get more updates on www.channelcv.com. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Have a profitable day.